Black single dad picks up stranger with torn dress. Her billionaire husband hunts her. The headlights caught her on the dark road. A woman in a destroyed wedding dress, barefoot, bleeding, running toward the snow like it was salvation. Daniel Washington's hands locked on the steering wheel. His phone buzzed a split second before he saw her, a news alert. He read the headline in the glow of his dashboard. Missing, Violet Crawford, 27. Fled wedding, billionaire husband's 100K reward. Warning, do not approach, potentially unstable. That's when Daniel understood. He was about to choose between safety and love, and there was no third option. He pulled over. She didn't react when he called out. Just kept walking, one bloody foot in front of the other, her eyes fixed on the darkness ahead like she was following a map only she could see. The wedding dress was shredded at the hem, stained with mud and wine. The expensive beading Victoria would have marveled at was torn away in patches. "Hey!" Daniel shouted through the window. "Stop!" The woman's eyes finally focused on him. They held the look of someone who'd already decided to stop living. "I can't go back," she said. "He'll find me." "Then come with me," Daniel said, pulling off his jacket. The wool one Victoria had bought him years ago, one of the last gifts before the cancer took her. Not back to him, forward, with me. She stared at him for a long moment, then nodded. In the car, her name was Violet, probably not her real name. But names didn't matter when survival did. "I'm Daniel," he said, keeping his voice steady the way he'd learned in 12 years of emergency room shifts. "I'm a nurse at County Hospital. I have a 5-year-old daughter. She's at her grandmother's tonight. I'm telling you this so you know. I have everything to lose protecting you, and I'm choosing to do it anyway." Violet's hands stopped shaking. She didn't ask where they were going, just stared out at the dark landscape passing by, her body slowly relaxing as the car's heat melted the ice from her hair. Daniel drove carefully, aware that she was fragile in a way that went beyond the physical. "What's your name? What's your—" he finally asked. "Violet," she whispered. "Is that enough?" "It's everything," Daniel said. At home, Daniel showed her the guest room, the one that used to be Victoria's mother's room before she passed, found her clothes that fit, made tea she didn't ask for, and didn't ask any questions. Not that first night. Not the next morning. He just left clothes on the bed, made sure there was food in the kitchen, and went about his routine with the careful normalcy of someone who understood that safety required patience. It wasn't until his phone rang on Thursday that everything changed. "Mr. Carter," his lawyer said without preamble. "James Crawford just filed a lawsuit. He's claiming Violet took assets from him. Jewelry, a car, cash he says belonged to their joint accounts. He's also claiming you're coercing her, keeping her against her will, and that your home environment is unsafe for a minor." Daniel felt his stomach drop. His custody, his daughter. The one thing he couldn't lose. "He's threatening my custody?" "He's threatening everything," the lawyer confirmed. "DCF will likely make visits. You need to document that she's making her own choices. Keep records. Get statements from people who've seen her choose to stay. And Daniel, understand this. He has resources you can't imagine. This is just the beginning." After the call, Daniel sat in silence and faced the impossible. He could ask Violet to leave. One conversation. She'd go because she'd never want to risk Maya's safety. His lawyer would probably recommend it. The smart thing. The protective thing. He found her in the backyard, kneeling in the dirt near Victoria's old garden beds. The plants had been dead for 3 years, ever since Victoria got sick and Daniel couldn't bear to tend them. Now Violet was on her hands and knees, pulling weeds with the focus of someone trying to resurrect something. "You have to leave," he said. Violet went still, her hands frozen in the soil. "My lawyer just called. He's going after my custody of Maya. He's claiming you're unstable and I'm putting her in danger by having you here." Violet immediately stood, brushing dirt from her knees with mechanical precision. "Then I leave. Tonight. I'll take whatever I can fit in a bag and disappear. I'm good at that. Do you want to? Daniel asked. Violet's eyes met his. What? Do you want to leave? Daniel stepped closer. Or are you just choosing to abandon yourself again because someone with power is forcing your hand? The question hung between them, Violet understanding that this was the moment. Stay and fight, or run and survive. I don't want to destroy your life, Violet whispered. You're not destroying it, Daniel said. Fear is, and I'm tired of letting fear decide. He paused, his voice dropping lower. My wife died 3 years ago. Right before she died, she made me promise something. She said the world needs more people brave enough to stand up when it's hard. She said grief can either make us smaller or stronger, and she wanted Maya to see her father choose stronger. Daniel looked at Violet directly. She said, Don't let our death be the end of your story. Let it be the beginning of your courage. He paused. So, here's my question. Are you going to let a billionaire with a checkbook write your story? Or are you finally going to write it yourself? Violet's voice cracked. I don't know if I'm brave enough. You ran from your wedding in a blizzard with nothing, Daniel said. You're brave enough. You just have to choose to stay. She did. The first real test came 2 weeks later. Daniel was at work, standing in the emergency room, when his phone rang. Unknown number. His blood went cold. Mr. Carter, this is Jennifer Morrison with Connecticut Department of Children and Families. We've received a report that you're housing an unstable individual with unsupervised access to your minor child. We need to conduct a home visit. Daniel's hands clenched into fists. That's ridiculous. Everything is fine. She's not. We have to take these reports seriously, Morrison said, her voice professional but not unkind. Can we come by this afternoon? After he hung up, Daniel realized what was happening. James Crawford wasn't just threatening. He was executing, using every weapon he had, lawyers, the media, the system itself. He was building a case, layer by layer, designed to make Daniel break. That evening, after the DCF visit, which found nothing but created a paper trail of concern, Daniel came home to find Violet sitting in the dark living room. She hadn't turned on lights. She was just sitting there in the silence, waiting. He's not going to stop, she said quietly. He's going to keep coming at you until you break, using Maya, using the courts, using anything he can think of. That's what he does. That's what people with unlimited money do. Then we get ahead of him, Daniel said, sitting beside her. We document everything. We build a case that you're competent, independent, making your own choices, and we stop being afraid of him. And if it's not enough, then we fight anyway, Daniel said simply. The weeks that followed were a slow pressure. More DCF visits, more lawyer calls, more reminders that James Crawford had infinite resources and infinite patience. But something shifted in Violet during those weeks. She stopped looking over her shoulder. She got a job at a nonprofit helping women leaving dangerous situations, women whose stories looked like hers. She opened a bank account in her own name with money she'd earned from her paychecks. She started building a life that wasn't dependent on Daniel's protection. And Maya, his 5-year-old daughter, started coming alive in ways Daniel hadn't seen since Victoria died. He'd watch Violet help with homework, sitting at the kitchen table with infinite patience while Maya sounded out words. He'd listen to them laughing during bath time, the sound of his daughter's joy filling rooms that had been too quiet for too long. He'd see Violet reading bedtime stories with the kind of presence that made a child feel completely seen. One afternoon in late March, Maya asked the question that changed everything. Daddy, is Violet staying forever? Daniel looked at his daughter, then at Violet, who was standing in the doorway with her arms full of laundry, watching them with an expression that held everything he'd been searching for. I want to, Violet said softly, setting down the laundry. If you want me to, I do, Maya said simply. You make Daddy happy and you make me happy, and you don't treat me like I'm broken. Daniel felt his chest tighten. His daughter understood something it had taken him weeks to admit. Violet wasn't just helping, she was healing. That night, after Maya was asleep, Daniel found Violet in the backyard. The garden Victoria had tended was showing green shoots. Spring was coming. The dead plants were remembering how to live. She asked if you were staying, Daniel said. What did you tell her? That it's your choice, Daniel said. He moved closer. But Violet, I need you to know. I'm in love with you. Not because you need saving. Not because you're convenient. Because you're brave and honest, and you help my daughter remember how to live. Violet turned to face him, her eyes wet with tears. Even though he's still out there? Even though this could get worse? Especially because of that, Daniel said. Because choosing you despite the threats, that's what love actually means. It's not safety, it's not comfort. It's choosing the hard thing because it's the right thing. The confrontation came on a cold March afternoon. James Crawford showed up at the house with his lawyers and his certainty and his absolute confidence that he would win. He always won. Men like him always did. He had 2 lawyers in custom suits and a third person, security, probably, waiting in the driveway. When Daniel answered the door, James didn't bother with pleasantries. I'm here to collect what's mine, James said coldly. She's not yours, Daniel said, his voice steady. She belongs with me, James said, and his eyes fixed on Violet, who'd appeared behind Daniel in the doorway. She made a commitment. She can't just break it because she's confused about her feelings. I'm not confused, Violet said, stepping beside Daniel instead of behind him. And I'm not yours. I was never yours. I was a transaction that didn't work out the way you planned. James's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flickered in his eyes. You made vows, Violet. You signed a prenup. Do you understand what happens to women who break contracts with me? I understand exactly what happens, Violet said. I watched it happen to the last woman you decided to control. I'm not going to be that woman. James's lawyers stepped forward. One reached for Violet's arm. Daniel moved. Not violently, but with absolute clarity, his body between them, his voice dropping to something dangerous. No! That single word, the refusal, the firmness, the absolute lack of fear, seemed to penetrate something in James that money and power couldn't touch. For the first time, Daniel saw something flicker across his face. Not anger, uncertainty. The look of someone unaccustomed to being told no by someone who meant it. You understand what you're doing? James asked, and his voice had changed. It was colder now, more measured, more dangerous. I understand, Daniel said. You're about to make an enemy of someone who can destroy you. I can ruin your career. I can make sure you never work as a nurse again. I can take your daughter. You can try, Daniel said. But Violet stays. James stared at him for a long moment. Then he looked at Violet. Then at Maya, who'd appeared in the doorway clutching Mr. Bear, her small face frightened but determined. Something shifted in his expression. It was like watching a man realize for the first time that not everything could be purchased or threatened into submission. You're making a mistake, James said finally. Then it's mine to make, Daniel replied. He didn't move, didn't step aside, didn't offer any opening for James to push through. He just stood there, a nurse against lawyers, a single father against a billionaire, love against power. After a long moment, James turned and walked back to the driveway. His lawyers followed, looking confused. The security person hesitated, then retreated. As his car disappeared down the street, Daniel realized something. He'd never been afraid of James Crawford. He'd been afraid his own love wasn't strong enough. Afraid that choosing Violet despite the threats would somehow dishonor Victoria's memory. Afraid that opening his heart again after it had been broken was selfish. But standing there with Violet beside him and Maya watching from the doorway, he understood that love was always strong enough. It just required the courage to defend it. By summer, the lawsuit had lost its teeth. James moved on to other conquests, other women he could control. Violet had established herself fully in her new life. The DCF visits stopped coming, and Daniel and Violet stopped pretending what was between them was temporary. Daniel took Violet to the courthouse on a Tuesday in August. No ceremony, no fuss. Just Maya and Daniel's mother as witnesses. Violet wore a simple blue dress she'd chosen herself, not a white dress chosen by someone else's expectations. When she signed her new name, Violet Washington, her hand shook, but she smiled. That night, after Maya was asleep, Daniel sat on the edge of their bed and whispered to Victoria in the darkness, "Thank you for making me promise to keep loving. Thank you for teaching me that courage is what comes after fear. Thank you for making sure our daughter would see her father choose to be brave." And he felt her answer, not a ghost, not a haunting, but a presence. The knowledge that love doesn't end when people do. It evolves, it grows, it becomes stronger in the people we choose to keep fighting for. Daniel looked at Violet sleeping beside him and felt grateful beyond words for the strange series of events that had brought her into their lives. A woman who'd walked barefoot through a blizzard, who'd chosen herself despite everything, who'd reminded him what it meant to live instead of just survive. In the backyard, pink roses bloomed in honor of Victoria. The garden that had died with grief came back to life under their care. Violet and Maya would spend hours out there, planting vegetables and flowers, getting dirt under their fingernails, laughing about things only they understood. One afternoon in early September, Maya made an announcement at dinner. "Emma invited our whole family to her birthday party," Maya said, looking nervous. "Can we go?" Daniel and Violet exchanged glances. "Of course, sweetheart," Violet said. "We'd love to." At the party, Daniel watched Violet with other adults, laughing without the careful control she used to carry. She was becoming someone new, not erasing who she'd been, but building on top of it. Someone stronger, someone whole. That night, after they'd put Maya to bed, Violet found Daniel on the porch. The garden was visible in the moonlight, the roses glowing pale silver. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" "For not letting me disappear," Violet said. "For standing in front of a billionaire and saying no. For choosing love even when it would have been safer to choose fear." "That's what you do for family," Daniel said. "You choose them. Every single day, even when it's hard." Violet leaned against him, and they sat in the quiet darkness, two people who'd found each other in impossible circumstances, learning that sometimes the greatest love stories aren't about finding someone perfect. They're about finding someone real and choosing them anyway. 3 months later, on a cold December evening, Daniel received an unexpected phone call. "Mr. Carter, this is Harrison from the Crawford legal team," the voice said. "Mr. Crawford would like to make an offer. A settlement of $2 million in exchange for—" Daniel hung up. He didn't need James Crawford's money. He had something Crawford would never understand. A daughter who laughed freely, a wife who chose him every morning, and the knowledge that he'd stood up to power and won. Not because he was stronger or richer or more connected, but because he was braver. That night, when he told Violet what had happened, she started crying. $2 million, she said, her voice shaking. "He thought money could fix this," Daniel said. "He didn't understand that what we have can't be bought or sold or threatened. It's ours because we chose it, because we fought for it, because we refused to let fear decide." Violet looked out at the garden, the blooming flowers, the growing vegetables, the evidence of new life built on top of old grief. "I want to plant something for your daughter," she said. "Something that comes back every year. Something that reminds us she's still part of our family." So they planted roses, pink ones, the kind Victoria had loved. And as they worked the soil, Daniel told Violet stories about his wife, about her strength, about the promises she'd made him keep. And Violet understood that this wasn't about replacing Victoria. It was about honoring her memory by choosing to live fully, love deeply, and stand up when it mattered. In the spring, when the roses bloomed again, Maya drew a picture of their family. It showed 3 figures in a garden surrounded by flowers and sun. At the top, in her careful second-grade handwriting, she'd written, "My family is growing." Daniel looked at the picture and understood what his daughter had learned that Victoria had tried to teach him. Families aren't inherited, they're chosen. And the people we choose to fight for become the people we're willing to lose everything protecting. Because that's what love actually is. Not safety, not comfort, but the willingness to stand in front of a billionaire and say no. To choose a stranger in a torn dress. To believe that courage can defeat power, and if you're brave enough, it does.